She was 17, wearing a faded hoodie, Beats headphones around her neck, and sitting in seat 1A, the most expensive seat on the plane. To the flight attendant, she looked like a mistake. To the wealthy woman standing in the aisle, she looked like an obstacle. They thought they could bully her. They thought they could intimidate her. They thought a black teenager alone in first class was an easy target. They were wrong. They didn't know that the phone in her hand was already dialing the one man who could ground the entire fleet. By the time the cabin doors closed, careers would be ended, a merger would be destroyed, and the woman who demanded her seat would lose everything she had spent a lifetime building. This isn't just a story about a seat. It's a story about what happens when arrogance meets the wrong girl. The air inside JFK International Airport was thick with the scent of expensive coffee and the palpable stress of holiday travel. Outside Terminal 4, the November wind whipped against the glass, but inside, the climate was controlled, sterile, and buzzing with the frenetic energy of thousands of people trying to get somewhere else. Maya Reynolds adjusted the strap of her backpack. At 17, Maya had the kind of quiet confidence that often got mistaken for aloofness. She wasn't loud. She didn't take up much space. Today she was dressed for comfort, a charcoal grey hoodie slightly too big for her frame, black leggings, and scuffed high-top sneakers. Her hair was pulled back into a neat, puff ponytail, and over her ears sat a pair of noise-cancelling headphones, currently playing a lo-fi jazz loop. She looked like any other teenager heading home for Thanksgiving break. She certainly didn't look like the daughter of Arthur Reynolds, the CEO of Reynolds Global Logistics and a silent majority shareholder in several commercial transportation firms. But Maya rarely advertised that fact. She preferred to move through the world without the weight of her father's name pressing down on her. She approached the gate for Flight 294 to London Heathrow. The line for economy was already snake-like, winding back past the Hudson newsstand. Maya bypassed it entirely, stepping into the lane marked Sky Priority, Jasasa First Class. The gate agent, a man named Greg with tired eyes and a tie that was slightly askew, didn't even look up as she approached. He was busy typing furiously on his terminal. "Excuse me," Maya said softly, extending her digital boarding pass. Greg glanced up. His eyes did a quick sweep. Hoodie, sneakers, young face, black skin. He sighed, a short, sharp exhale through his nose. "Miss, the line for Zone 4 is back there." He pointed vaguely toward the mass of people. "This is for first class and Diamond Medallion members only." It was a microaggression Maya was used to. It happened at restaurants, at hotel check-ins, and almost always at airports. She didn't get angry. She didn't roll her eyes. She simply held the phone steady. "I know," Maya said, her voice even. "I'm in seat 1A. Greg paused. He blinked, looking from her face to the phone screen she was holding out. He took the scanner, almost aggressively, and aimed it at the QR code. Beep. The machine flashed green. "Passenger. Reynolds. Maya. Seat. 1A. Status. VIP." Greg's eyebrows shot up, disappearing into his hairline. He looked at the screen, then back at Maya, searching for a glitch. There was none. He cleared his throat, his demeanor shifting instantly, though the skepticism lingered in his eyes. "Right. Sorry about that, Miss Reynolds. Welcome aboard." "Thank you, Greg," she said, reading his name tag. She walked down the jet bridge, the cool air of the tunnel hitting her face. She loved flying. It was the only time she felt truly disconnected from the pressure of her academic life at the prestigious prep school she attended in Connecticut. She was looking forward to 7 hours of sleep in a lie-flat pod. When she boarded the aircraft, the mood shifted again. The lead flight attendant, a tall blonde woman with a tight bun and a nameplate that read Sabrina, was standing at the galley entrance greeting passengers. Her smile was practiced, plastic, and wavered slightly when she saw Maya. "Boarding pass?" Sabrina asked, her hand extended, blocking the aisle to the left where the first-class suites were located. Maya showed her the phone again. Sabrina stared at it for a long moment. "1A," she repeated, her tone implying that Maya must have photoshopped the ticket. "Yes, ma'am." "Let me see the paper copy," Sabrina demanded. Sometimes the app glitches. Maya frowned slightly. "I only have the digital copy. The gate agent just scanned it. It's fine." Sabrina pursed her lips. "Fine. Go ahead. But keep it handy. I might need to check it again." She didn't offer to take Maya's coat. She didn't offer a pre-departure beverage. She simply stepped aside, her body language stiff. Maya didn't mind. She just wanted to sit down. She found 1A. It was a beautiful suite, spacious and private. She tossed her backpack into the overhead bin, settled into the soft leather seat, and pulled out her phone to text her dad. On the plane. A bit of friction at the gate, but I'm good. See you in London. She put her phone on silent and closed her eyes, ready to tune out the world. But the world wasn't done with her yet. 5 minutes later, the peace was shattered. "I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous. I specifically requested 1A. My assistant confirmed it this morning." The voice was shrill, piercing, and dripping with entitlement. Maya opened one eye. Standing in the aisle was a woman who looked like she had walked straight out of a magazine for wealthy socialites. She was wearing a cream-colored cashmere coat, large designer sunglasses, indoors, and carrying a Birkin bag that probably cost more than most people's cars. She was older, maybe in her 50s, with sharp features and highlighted hair sprayed into rigid perfection. This was Victoria Sterling. Maya didn't know her name yet, but she knew the type. Behind Victoria was Sabrina, the flight attendant, looking flustered and eager to please. "Mrs. Sterling, I understand," Sabrina soothed. "Let me check the manifest again. There must be a computer error." "There is no error," Victoria snapped, pulling off her sunglasses to reveal icy blue eyes. "I am a platinum partner. I fly this airline 3 times a month. I always sit in 1A. It's my seat. Who is in it?" Victoria turned her head and looked down into the suite. Her eyes landed on Maya. The silence that followed was heavy, loaded with unspoken assumptions. Victoria looked at Maya's hoodie. She looked at her sneakers. Then she looked back at Sabrina, a small, incredulous laugh escaping her lips. "You have got to be kidding me," Victoria said, loud enough for the entire first-class cabin to hear. "Is this a joke? Is this a staff member's child? Why is she in my seat?" Maya sat up, removing her headphones. She didn't shrink. She didn't apologize. She looked Victoria dead in the eye. "I'm not a staff member's child," Maya said calmly. "And this is my seat. I have the ticket." Victoria didn't even address Maya. She turned her back on her, facing Sabrina completely. "Get her out of there, now. I have a very important meeting in London. I need to sleep, and I am not sitting in row 4 near the galley. I paid full fare. Remove her." Sabrina looked between the wealthy, furious woman in cashmere and the black teenager in the hoodie. The calculation in her head was visible. On one side, a known VIP, a frequent flyer, a woman who looked like she could get Sabrina fired with a snap of her fingers. On the other side, a kid. Probably an upgrade, probably a mistake. Sabrina made her choice. She stepped toward Maya, her plastic smile gone. "Miss," Sabrina said, her voice sharp, "I'm going to need to see your boarding pass again." The cabin had gone quiet. The other first-class passengers, mostly businessmen in suits and a few wealthy tourists, were watching over the tops of their newspapers and iPads. Nobody spoke up. They were spectators in the Colosseum of high-altitude politics. Maya unlocked her phone and brought up the QR code again. "Here," she said, holding it up. "Seat 1A. Maya Reynolds." Sabrina glanced at it, but didn't scan it. "There seems to be a double booking," she lied smoothly. "The system shows a conflict. Mrs. Sterling is a priority passenger with platinum status. Under airline policy, in the event of a conflict, we prioritize our loyalty members." "I have a paid ticket," Maya said, her heart starting to beat a little faster. She knew this game. "It's not an upgrade. It's a full-fare first-class ticket purchased 2 weeks ago." "Don't lie, sweetheart," Victoria Sterling interjected, leaning over Sabrina's shoulder. "Look at you. You probably used miles or got a buddy pass from a janitor friend. Just get up. You're holding up the flight." Maya felt a flash of heat rise up her neck. Janitor friend. It was so cliché, so ugly, but it still stung. "I'm not moving," Maya said, her voice hardening. "I paid for this seat. If there is a double booking, that is the airline's fault, not mine. You can find another seat for this lady." "This lady?" Victoria scoffed. "I am Victoria Sterling. I run the Sterling Hess merger acquisition firm. I do not sit in the back, and I certainly do not let little girls with attitude dictate my travel arrangements." Victoria turned to Sabrina. "If you don't remove her, I will be calling your corporate office before we even take off. I'll have your badge." Sabrina panicked. The threat of a corporate complaint was terrifying for flight crews. She looked at Maya with desperate aggression. "Miss, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you," Sabrina said, stepping into the suite's personal space. "We have an economy comfort seat, available in row 22. It has extra legroom. You will take that seat, or you will be removed from the aircraft for failing to comply with crew instructions." "Row 22?" Maya asked, incredulous. "I paid $5,000 for this seat. You want me to move to row 22 so she can sit here?" "I will issue you a travel voucher for the difference," Sabrina said dismissively. "Now grab your bag. We are delaying departure." "No," Maya said. She pulled her legs up, crossing them. "I'm not moving. Call the pilot. Call the gate agent. But I am not moving." "Oh, for God's sake!" Victoria groaned. She pulled out her phone. "I'm recording this. Everyone see this? This delinquent is holding up the plane." She pointed her camera right in Maya's face. Maya didn't flinch. She stared into the camera lens. "Sabrina," Maya said, looking at the flight attendant's name tag again. "If you touch my bag, or if you force me off this plane, you are going to regret it. I am giving you one chance to check the manifest properly." "Are you threatening me?" Sabrina's voice pitched up. "Did you hear that?" She looked around at the other passengers. "She just threatened a crew member. That's a federal offense." "I didn't threaten you," Maya said calmly. "I warned you." "That's it," Sabrina snapped. She grabbed her radio. "Captain, we have a disruptive passenger in 1A, refusing to follow crew instructions. Hostile behavior. I need security to the gate immediately." The cabin gasped. Security. That meant police. That meant handcuffs. Victoria Sterling smirked, adjusting her coat. "Good. Teach her a lesson. Maybe she'll learn some respect." Maya watched Sabrina walk toward the cockpit. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply unlocked her phone again. She didn't call 911. She didn't call her mum. She opened her contacts and tapped a number labeled Dad, private line. It rang once. "Maya?" Her father's deep voice came through the line. "Everything okay? You should be taking off." "Dad," Maya said, her voice trembling just slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of what she was about to do. "I'm at JFK. I'm in seat 1A. A woman named Victoria Sterling wants my seat. The flight attendant, Sabrina, just called the police to have me arrested for being disruptive, because I won't move to economy." There was a silence on the other end of the line. A cold, terrifying silence. "She called the police?" Arthur Reynolds asked. His voice was dangerously quiet. "Yes. They are on their way down the jet bridge now." "Stay on the line," Arthur said. "Do not hang up. Put me on speaker when the police get there." "Okay." "Maya?" "Yeah?" "I'm sorry this is happening. I'm handling it. Right now." Maya lowered the phone to her lap. Moments later, the heavy thud of boots echoed on the jet bridge floor. 2 Port Authority police officers boarded the plane. They looked serious, hands resting on their belts. "Where is the passenger?" one officer asked. "Right here," Sabrina said, pointing a shaking finger at Maya. "She's refusing to move, she's aggressive, and she threatened the crew." Victoria chimed in. "She's been verbally abusive to me as well. I want to press charges." The officer looked at Maya, a small teenage girl in a hoodie. He looked confused. "Miss, you need to grab your things and come with us." Maya looked at the officer. "I haven't done anything wrong. I have a valid ticket." "We can sort that out at the station," the officer said, reaching for her arm. "Come on, let's not make this hard." "Wait," Maya said. She held up her phone. "My lawyer, my father, wants to speak to you." The officer rolled his eyes. "I don't have time to talk to your daddy." "I think you really, really want to talk to him," Maya said, "before you put handcuffs on me." The officer hesitated. Something in Maya's unwavering gaze made him pause. He took the phone. "This is Officer Miller, Port Authority. Who is this?" Maya watched the officer's face. "Arthur Reynolds," her father's voice boomed over the small speaker, loud enough for Sabrina and Victoria to hear. "CIO of Reynolds Global, and the man who just signed the renewal contract for the hangars your precinct uses at this airport." Officer Miller froze. "I am currently on the other line with the Chief of Airport Operations and the VP of this airline," Arthur continued, his voice like grinding steel. "If you touch my daughter, you will be on desk duty until you retire. Now put the flight attendant on the phone. Immediately." Officer Miller swallowed hard. The color drained from his face. He looked at the phone, then at Maya, then at Sabrina. He held the phone out to Sabrina as if it were a grenade. "It's for you," Miller whispered. Sabrina's hands were shaking as she took the device. "Oh, hello?" "This is Arthur Reynolds," the voice growled. "What is your employee ID number?" Sabrina couldn't speak. She looked at Victoria Sterling, who was no longer smirking. Victoria was staring at the phone, her mouth slightly open. The name Reynolds had just registered. "I said," Arthur roared, "what is your ID number?" Sabrina, the flight attendant who had been so imperious just moments ago, stood trembling in the aisle of the first-class cabin. The smartphone in her hand felt like a live wire. The voice of Arthur Reynolds had sliced through her composure like a guillotine. "I asked for your employee ID," Arthur's voice repeated, calm now, but with a terrifying, heavy finality. "And put me on speaker so the captain can hear this." Sabrina's finger shook as she tapped the speaker icon. She whispered her ID number, her voice barely audible. "It's 4922B. 4922B, Arthur repeated. "Sabrina Jenkins, 10 years with the airline, 3 service complaints in the last 18 months, and now racial profiling and harassment of a minor." Sabrina gasped. "How do you—" "I have your CEO, Michael Vance, on my other line," Arthur said. "He's reading your file to me right now. But that's the least of your worries." At that moment, the cockpit door opened. Captain Jameson, a man with grey temples and a look of deep annoyance, stepped out. He saw the police officers, the weeping flight attendant, and the angry woman in the cashmere coat. "What is going on out here?" Captain Jameson demanded. "We are missing our slot. Why is the passenger still in 1A?" Officer Miller, the policeman who had wisely stepped back, pointed at the phone in Sabrina's hand. "Captain, I think you need to hear this." Sabrina held the phone out toward the captain. "It's her father." Captain Jameson frowned, snatching the phone. "This is Captain Jameson. Look, sir, I don't know who you are, but your daughter is delaying a transatlantic flight. I have federal regulations that—" "Captain Jameson," Arthur cut him off. "This is Arthur Reynolds, Reynolds Global Logistics." The captain paused. The name hit him harder than it had hit Sabrina. Reynolds Global Logistics didn't just ship boxes. They handled the fuel contracts for half the major airports on the East Coast. They also owned the subsidiary that leased the very engines attached to the wings of this Boeing 737. "Mr. Reynolds?" The captain's tone shifted from annoyed to cautious. "I wasn't aware your family was on board." "My daughter Maya is in seat 1A, Arthur said. "She has a valid ticket. Your lead flight attendant, Ms. Jenkins, and a passenger named Victoria Sterling are attempting to remove her by force because they don't believe a black teenager belongs in first class. They have called the police on her." The captain looked at Maya. She was still sitting calmly, her hands in her lap, watching the scene unfold with the patience of a saint. Then he looked at Sabrina, who was staring at the floor, and Victoria, who was fuming. "Is this true?" Jameson asked Sabrina, his voice low. "Did you check her ticket?" She showed me a digital one, but Mrs. Sterling insisted," Sabrina stammered. "She didn't scan it," Maya spoke up, her voice clear in the quiet cabin. "She refused to scan it. She just assumed I was lying." "It doesn't matter," Victoria Sterling interrupted, her patience snapping. She stepped forward, getting right in the captain's face. "I don't care who her father is. I don't care if he sells jet fuel or peanuts. I am Victoria Sterling. I am a platinum flyer. I demanded this seat, and this incompetent stewardess promised it to me. Now, get this child off the plane so I can sit down." Victoria grabbed the phone from the captain's hand before he could react and shouted into it. "Listen to me, whoever you are," she screeched. "You might be a big fish in some little pond, but you are messing with the wrong woman. I'm worth $50 million. I can buy and sell you. Your daughter is a brat who needs to learn her place. Now tell her to move." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then a low, dark chuckle echoed through the cabin. "Victoria Sterling," Arthur said, his voice sounding almost amused now. "Sterling Hess Acquisitions, correct?" Victoria blinked, caught off guard. "Yes, that's right." "You're flying to London to close the merger with British Foundry Limited," Arthur continued. "A deal worth—" "What was it? 120 million? You need to sign the papers by Monday morning." Victoria's face went pale. "How do you know that? That is confidential information." "It's not confidential to the bank that is underwriting your loans," Arthur said. "You're leveraging 90% of your firm's assets to buy British Foundry. It's a high-risk move. If you don't get the financing, you don't just lose the deal, you lose your company." "So what?" Victoria sneered, though her hand was trembling slightly. "What does that have to do with you? You're in logistics." "Reynolds Global sits on the board of the private equity firm backing your loan." Arthur dropped the bomb. "Centurion Capital, does that ring a bell?" The color drained from Victoria's face so fast it looked like she might faint. Centurion Capital was the only reason she was still in business. They held the purse strings. "I'm texting the managing director of Centurion right now," Arthur said casually. "I'm telling him that his star borrower is currently delayed at JFK because she is busy racially abusing a teenager and delaying a commercial flight. I'm wondering how he feels about the stability of the leadership at Sterling Hess." "No," Victoria whispered. "You wouldn't." "I would," Arthur said. In fact, I just hit send." "You bastard!" Victoria screamed. She looked around wildly. "He's lying! He's bluffing!" "Captain Jameson," Arthur said, ignoring her outburst. "I want the police to remove 2 people from that aircraft, but it isn't going to be my daughter." Captain Jameson looked at the situation. He looked at the weeping flight attendant who had violated protocol. He looked at the unstable woman screaming at a speakerphone, and he looked at Maya, the only calm person in the room. "Officer Miller," Captain Jameson said, turning to the police. "Mr. Reynolds is right. We have a disruption. But the threat isn't in seat 1A. The atmosphere in the first-class cabin had shifted from awkward tension to high-stakes corporate warfare. The other passengers were no longer pretending to read their newspapers. Every single one of them was recording the incident on their phones. Officer Miller, realizing the wind had changed direction violently, stepped away from Maya. He looked at Sabrina Jenkins. "Ma'am," the officer said to the flight attendant, "did you verify the passenger's ticket in 1A before calling us?" Sabrina looked up, tears streaming down her face, ruining her perfect makeup. "I thought." "She didn't," Captain Jameson barked. "She profiled a passenger. Sabrina, grab your bag." "What?" Sabrina gasped. "You're off the flight," Jameson said, his voice brooking no argument. "I am not flying across the Atlantic with a lead attendant who can't read a boarding pass and causes a PR disaster before we even push back. You are relieved of duty immediately. Get your things." "But I have to get to London," Sabrina sobbed. "My layover, my per diem." "You don't have a layover anymore," Jameson said coldly. "You have a disciplinary hearing on Monday. Off. Now." Sabrina, head hung low, had to endure the humiliation of walking back to the galley, retrieving her tote bag, and walking past Maya. She didn't look at the girl. She couldn't. She walked off the plane, her career in tatters, the clicks of smartphone cameras following her every step. "Now for you," Officer Miller said, turning to Victoria Sterling. Victoria was still clutching her Birkin bag, her chest heaving. She looked at the phone, which Captain Jameson was holding again. "You can't kick me off," she hissed. "I have to be in London. The deal is dead, Victoria," Arthur's voice came from the phone. "My contact at Centurion just replied. He's pulling the term sheet. He says he doesn't do business with liabilities. Check your email." Victoria froze. Her hands fumbled for her own phone. She frantically refreshed her inbox. A scream, primal and raw, ripped from her throat. Subject: Notice of withdrawal. Centurion Capital. She read the first line and dropped the phone. It clattered onto the floor of the aisle. "No," she moaned. "No, no, no. You can't do this. Do you know how hard I worked for this?" "I know exactly how hard you worked," Arthur said. "And I know how easily you thought you could crush my daughter just because you wanted her seat. You thought you were powerful, Victoria. But you forgot that power comes with responsibility. You abused yours. Now I'm using mine." "Officer," Captain Jameson nodded to the police. "Get her off my plane. She's a security risk." "Don't touch me!" Victoria shrieked as Officer Miller and his partner stepped forward. She lashed out, her manicured nails scratching at the officer's arm. That was the final nail in the coffin. "Okay, that's assault on an officer," Miller said, his demeanor shifting from mediator to law enforcement. He spun her around. "Hands behind your back. You are under arrest." "I am Victoria Sterling," she screamed as the cuffs clicked shut. "I am a VIP. I demand to speak to the manager of this airport." "You have the right to remain silent," Miller recited, pushing her forward. The scene was chaotic. Victoria was kicking and screaming, her expensive coat twisting around her, her dignity completely evaporated. As they dragged her past seat 1A, she locked eyes with Maya one last time. Maya didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just looked at Victoria with a mixture of pity and resolve. "You should have just sat in row 4, Maya said softly. Victoria let out a garbled sound of rage as she was hauled down the jet bridge, her screams echoing in the tunnel until the heavy cabin door was shut, sealing the noise out. The cabin was silent. Captain Jameson took a deep breath and adjusted his tie. He lifted the phone, which was still connected. "Mr. Reynolds?" "I'm here, Captain," Arthur said. "The situation has been resolved. The disruptive individuals have been removed. We are going to need a few minutes to get a replacement flight attendant from the standby crew, but we will get your daughter to London." "Thank you, Captain," Arthur said. "And Captain, please ensure Maya gets the service she paid for. She's had a long day." "She will be treated like royalty, sir. You have my word." "Good. Maya, are you there?" Maya leaned toward the phone. "I'm here, Dad. I love you, kiddo. I'll see you on the ground in London. I'm proud of you for standing your ground." "Thanks, Dad. Love you." The call ended. Captain Jameson handed the phone back to Maya with 2 hands, treating it like a sacred artifact. "Miss Reynolds," Jameson said, his voice respectful. "On behalf of the airline, I apologize for what just happened. I will personally ensure the rest of your flight is flawless. Can I get you anything right now? A water? Juice?" "Water would be great," Maya said. Jameson nodded to the remaining junior flight attendant, a young man named David who looked terrified. "David, get Miss Reynolds a sparkling water with lime, immediately." As the captain returned to the cockpit, Maya looked around. The other passengers in first class were staring at her. But this time, there was no judgment. There was fear and respect. A man in seat 2B, a heavy-set guy in an expensive suit, leaned across the aisle. "Hey," he whispered. "That was intense. Your dad is Arthur Reynolds?" Maya put her headphones back around her neck. "Yeah. Remind me never to get on your bad side." The man chuckled nervously. Maya offered a small, tired smile. She put her headphones on, pressed play on her jazz playlist, and looked out the window. The rain had started to fall on the tarmac, blurring the lights of the airport. She thought it was over. She thought the drama was done. But she was wrong. Because while Victoria Sterling had been removed, the ripple effect of what had just happened was only beginning. Sabrina Jenkins wasn't just going to go home quietly, and Victoria Sterling, sitting in a holding cell at JFK, wasn't the type to accept defeat. She still had one phone call, and she wasn't calling a lawyer. She was calling the press. As the plane finally pushed back from the gate, delayed by 45 minutes, Maya's phone buzzed with a text message. It wasn't from her dad. It was from an unknown number. "You think you won? Watch the news when you land. This isn't over." Maya frowned. She looked at the screen, a cold shiver running down her spine despite the warmth of the cabin. She blocked the number and turned her phone to airplane mode. The engines roared to life, the massive GE turbines, the ones her father's company leased, spooling up with a deep, powerful hum. The plane taxied toward the runway. Maya closed her eyes, trying to force the adrenaline out of her system. She drifted off to sleep as the plane climbed into the dark sky over the Atlantic. But while she slept, a storm was brewing on the ground. The video of Victoria Sterling being dragged off the plane had already hit the internet. It was viral within minutes, and the narrative wasn't what Maya expected, because the person who uploaded the video had edited it. They cut out the part where Victoria was racist. They cut out the part where Sabrina refused to check the ticket. The video that was trending #1 on Twitter just showed a black teenager smirking while an older white woman was dragged away in handcuffs, screaming that she had been framed. The caption read, Billionaire's brat daughter uses daddy's influence to arrest innocent woman for wanting a seat. Boycott Reynolds Global Justice for Victoria. By the time Maya landed in London, she wouldn't just be a student on holiday. She would be public enemy number one. The flight across the Atlantic was smooth, a sharp contrast to the turbulence awaiting Maya on the ground. For 7 hours, she was blissfully unaware of the digital wildfire consuming her reputation. She watched a movie, ate a gourmet meal served by a terrified but attentive flight attendant named David, and slept for 4 hours in the lie-flat seat she had fought so hard to keep. When the pilot announced their descent into London Heathrow, the grey dawn was breaking over the city. Maya stretched, feeling a sense of relief. She assumed the worst was over. She assumed Victoria Sterling was a bad memory, a story to tell her friends back at prep school. As the plane taxied to the gate, Maya turned off airplane mode. Her phone didn't just buzz, it convulsed. It vibrated so violently and continuously that it nearly slipped out of her hand. 4:12. Missed calls, 8,000 plus Instagram notifications, Twitter, trending topic, Brat Reynolds. Maya frowned, her thumb hovering over the screen. She opened her text messages first. The most recent one was from her father. Dad, Maya, do not exit the jet bridge. Do not go to baggage claim. Security is coming to get you at the plane door. Keep your head down. Don't speak to anyone. A cold knot formed in her stomach. She opened Twitter. The top trend was Boycott Reynolds. The second was Justice for Victoria. She clicked on a video with 15 million views. It was footage from the plane, but it was unrecognizable from the reality she had lived. The video started after Victoria had made her racist comments. It started after Sabrina had refused to check the ticket. The video began right when Arthur Reynolds was on the speakerphone, threatening to have everyone fired. It showed Maya sitting in the big leather seat, looking impassive, while a weeping Sabrina packed her bag. It showed Victoria Sterling, looking frail and victimized, being manhandled by police while shouting, "I just wanted to get home." The caption was brutal. Corporate bully Arthur Reynolds uses his wealth to terrorize a flight crew and arrest a 55-year-old woman just so his teenage daughter can have extra legroom. This is what privilege looks like. RT to expose. The comments were a cesspool. Look at that girl, smirking while an honest worker loses her job. Eat the rich. I'm cancelling my contract with Reynolds Global tomorrow. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. She wasn't the victim anymore. To the world, she was the villain. The cabin door opened. Instead of the usual ground crew, 2 massive men in dark suits entered. They weren't airport security, they were private protection. "Miss Reynolds?" one of them asked, his voice low and urgent. "I'm head of your father's detail in London. We need to move. Now." "What's happening?" Maya whispered, grabbing her backpack. "The terminal is swarmed," the guard said. "Paparazzi, protesters. It's bad, miss. We're taking you out via the tarmac." They rushed her off the plane, bypassing the jet bridge entirely and going down the metal stairs to a waiting black SUV on the runway. As the car sped away, Maya looked up at the terminal windows. She could see the flashes of hundreds of cameras going off, like a lightning storm trapped behind glass. Inside the car, Arthur Reynolds was waiting. He looked 10 years older than he had on FaceTime yesterday. He was on 2 phones at once. "Sell the position," Arthur barked into one phone. "I don't care if it's a loss. Dump it." He switched to the other phone. "No, I will not resign. Tell the board to go to hell. I'll see them at the emergency meeting." He hung up both phones and looked at Maya. The anger in his eyes vanished, replaced by deep concern. He pulled her into a hug. "I'm so sorry, Maya," he said. "I didn't think she would play this dirty." "Dad, have you seen the video?" Maya asked, her voice shaking. "They cut out everything she said. They made it look like we were the bad guys." "I know," Arthur said grimly. "It's a hit job. Victoria Sterling didn't just go to jail. She got bailed out 3 hours ago. She went straight to a PR firm. She's spinning this as elder abuse. She's claiming she has a heart condition and that you and I targeted her." "But that's a lie," Maya cried. "The truth doesn't matter right now," Arthur said, looking out the window as they sped onto the highway toward central London. "The stock is down 12% this morning. We've lost 3 major contracts in the last hour. The board of directors is calling for my head to save the company's image. They want me to issue a public apology to Victoria Sterling." "Apologize?" Maya felt sick. "To her? If I don't, Reynolds Global might collapse," Arthur said quietly. "The public pressure is too high. The narrative is that a black billionaire bullied a white grandmother. It plays into every stereotype they want to use against us." They arrived at the Reynolds Global London headquarters, a glass monolith in the financial district. The entrance was barricaded. A crowd of protesters stood outside holding signs that read, "Arrogance has a price," and "Justice for Sabrina." They were ushered into the building through an underground cargo bay. They took the private elevator to the top floor. In the boardroom, a crisis management team was waiting. Lawyers, PR specialists, and fixers. They looked exhausted. "Arthur," the lead lawyer, a sharp woman named Jessica, stood up. "It's getting worse. Victoria Sterling just went live on Good Morning Britain. She's wearing a neck brace." Arthur slammed his fist on the table. "A neck brace? She was fine." "She's crying on national television," Jessica said, pointing to the large screen on the wall. There she was, Victoria Sterling, sitting on a plush sofa in a TV studio, looking pale and fragile. A foam brace was wrapped around her neck. "I was just confused," Victoria sobbed to the sympathetic host. "I thought there was a mistake with the seats, and then this man, this powerful man, he started screaming at me through the phone. He told the police to hurt me. And that girl? She just laughed. She laughed at me while they twisted my arm. I'm in so much pain." The host looked horrified. "That is appalling, Victoria. And you lost your merger because of this?" "I lost everything," Victoria wept. "My company, my reputation. All because I asked a question." Maya stared at the screen, trembling with rage. "She's acting. She's literally acting." "It's working," Jessica said. "Social media is demanding we pay her a settlement. If we settle, the story goes away. If we fight, the stock keeps dropping." Arthur looked at Maya. "I won't apologize," he said firmly. "I won't let her win. But we need proof. We need the raw footage." "We've contacted the airline," Jessica said. "They are stonewalling. They are terrified of the liability. They claim the security cameras on the plane were malfunctioning during boarding. They don't want to release footage that shows their flight attendant being racist. It hurts them too." "So we have nothing?" Arthur asked. "Just my word against hers?" "Unless a passenger steps forward," Jessica said. "But so far, the only videos online are the edited ones. Victoria's team likely bought the rights to the original video from whoever shot it and buried the raw file." The room fell silent. The weight of the situation was crushing. A billion-dollar empire was crumbling because of a lie told by a woman in a cashmere coat. Maya sat in the corner, scrolling through her phone. She was looking at the hashtags again. She clicked on a random tweet deep in the thread of Justice for Victoria. It was a reply from a user with only 12 followers. The handle was JazzCat2B. The tweet read, "This is BS. I was there. The lady was a monster. The girl was chill. I have the whole thing on my iPad." Maya's heart stopped. "Dad," she whispered. "Seat 2B. "What?" Arthur turned to her. "The guy in seat 2B, Maya said, her eyes widening. "The nervous guy. He talked to me after the police left. He said, that was intense. He was holding an iPad." She showed Arthur the tweet. It had 0 likes, 0 retweets. It was buried under the avalanche of hate. Arthur grabbed the phone. "Jessica, find this user, JazzCat2B. Find him now." The crisis room transformed into a war room. The legal team wasn't looking at contracts anymore. They were looking at IP addresses and social media profiles. "User is JazzCat2B," the tech specialist typed furiously. "Geolocation tag on the tweet puts him in London. He landed on the same flight." "Name?" Arthur demanded. "Cross-referencing the handle with the flight manifest," Jessica said, pulling up the passenger list she had subpoenaed earlier. "Seat 2B. Passenger name, Simon Pegg. No, wait. Simon Pegg wannabe. Sorry, reading the wrong line. Passenger name, Simon Kress." "Who is Simon Kress?" Arthur asked. "He's a freelance sound engineer," the tech guy said. "He works on nature documentaries. He's not a corporate guy. He's a nobody." "He's the most important person in the world right now," Arthur said. "Where is he?" "He posted a photo on Instagram 10 minutes ago," Maya said, scanning Simon's other social media. "He's at a coffee shop in Shoreditch, Brew Dog Cafe. He says he's editing some audio." "Get the car," Arthur ordered. "We are going to Shoreditch." "Arthur, you can't go out there," Jessica warned. "The mob—" "I don't care about the mob," Arthur said, buttoning his jacket. "I care about the truth. Maya, you stay here." "No," Maya stood up. "He sat next to me. He knows me. If you go in there with suits and bodyguards, he'll freak out. I have to go." Arthur looked at his daughter. He saw the steel in her spine. She wasn't just his little girl anymore. She was a Reynolds. "Okay," Arthur said. "Hood up, sunglasses on. Let's go." The drive to Shoreditch was a high-speed blur. They had to take back alleys to avoid the press, camped in front of the building. When they arrived at the hip, graffiti-covered neighborhood, the vibe was different. People here didn't care as much about corporate stocks, but they were glued to their phones. They found the cafe. It was small, smelling of roasted beans and oat milk. In the back corner, wearing a beanie and tapping away on an iPad Pro, was the heavy-set man from the plane. Simon Kress. Arthur signaled his bodyguards to wait outside. He and Maya walked to the back. Simon looked up as a shadow fell over his table. He squinted. Then his eyes went wide. He recognized Maya instantly. "Whoa," Simon said, half rising. "You're the girl, the internet villain." "I'm not a villain, Simon," Maya said, pulling down her hood. "And you know that." Simon looked nervously at the door. "Look, I don't want any trouble. I saw what they're saying online. It's crazy." "Simon," Arthur stepped forward, his presence filling the small space. "I'm Arthur Reynolds." Simon swallowed hard. "I figured. You look like the guy who yelled at the cops." "I need the video," Arthur said. "The one you tweeted about." Simon hesitated. He tapped his fingers on his iPad. "Man, I don't know. I saw that lady Victoria. She's on TV saying she's gonna sue everyone. If I release this, she'll come after me. I'm just a sound guy. I can't afford a lawyer." "If you release this," Arthur said, leaning in, "you will never need to worry about money again. But more importantly, if you don't release it, an innocent girl gets destroyed, and a liar wins. Is that the kind of story you want to tell?" Simon looked at Maya. He saw the fatigue in her eyes, the stress of a 17-year-old taking on the world. He looked down at his iPad. "I hate bullies," Simon muttered. "And that lady, she was the queen of them." He swiped on his screen. "I started recording the second she raised her voice, before the flight attendant even walked up. I got the whole thing. The janitor comment. The refusal to scan the ticket. The fake neck pain. Wait, she didn't have neck pain. She was throwing her bag around like a wrestler. "Can we airdrop it?" Maya asked. "Better," Simon said. He grinned, a mischievous spark in his eye. "I have a verified YouTube channel for my documentary work. It has about 50,000 subscribers. Not huge, but enough to get a notification out." "Post it," Arthur said. "What should I title it?" Simon asked. Maya looked at the screen. "Title it, The Real 1A, What Victoria Sterling Doesn't Want You to See." Simon tapped the screen. "Upload. Processing. 10%, 50%, 100%. Published." "It's up," Simon said. Arthur pulled out his phone. He called Jessica back at the office. "It's live. Send the link to every news outlet, every blog, every investor on our contact list. Boost it with paid ad spend if you have to. Make sure the world sees this in the next 10 minutes. The three of them sat in the coffee shop, watching the view counter on Simon's iPad. 10 views, 500 views, 10,000 views. Then the comments started to change. Wait, did she just call her a janitor's friend? OMG, the flight attendant didn't even look at the ticket. Victoria Sterling is standing perfectly fine here. She's assaulting the cop. Where is the neck brace? We got played, Twitter. The tide was turning, and it was turning fast. Back at the TV studio, Victoria Sterling was still on air, wiping away a fake tear. The host touched her earpiece. Her expression changed from sympathy to confusion, then to shock. Victoria," the host said, interrupting Victoria's monologue about emotional distress. We have some breaking news. A new video has just surfaced from a passenger in seat 2B. Victoria froze. Her eyes darted to the monitor behind the cameras. The producers put Simon's video on the big screen. The audio was crisp and clear. Simon was a sound engineer, after all. The studio audience heard Victoria's voice, shrill and hateful. "Don't lie, sweetheart. You probably used miles or got a buddy pass from a janitor friend." They saw her grab the flight attendant. They saw her slap the police officer's hand. On live television, Victoria Sterling's face went from pale victim to a shade of red that signaled a catastrophic cardiac event or pure, unadulterated rage. "Turn it off!" Victoria screamed, standing up and forgetting to hold her neck stiff. She ripped the foam brace off and threw it on the floor. "That is illegal. That is a deep fake." The host stared at the discarded neck brace on the floor. Then she looked at Victoria, who was moving her head with perfect agility. "Well," the host said, her voice dripping with ice, "it seems your neck has made a miraculous recovery, Ms. Sterling." Arthur watched the stream on his phone in the coffee shop. A slow, dark smile spread across his face. "Hard karma," Arthur whispered. "It's a beautiful thing." But the fallout wasn't done. The video didn't just expose Victoria, it exposed Sabrina Jenkins, and it exposed the airline's negligence. Arthur's phone rang. It was the CEO of the airline. "Arthur," the CEO's voice was trembling, "please, tell me we can settle this. The internet is eating us alive." "Settle?" Arthur asked. "Oh, we're way past a settlement, Michael. Now we're talking about a resignation." The collapse of Victoria Sterling's life didn't happen in months or years. It happened in hours. The moment she ripped off that neck brace on live television, she didn't just expose a lie. She committed insurance fraud, attempted extortion, and perjury in the court of public opinion. The host of Good Morning Britain cut to a commercial break, but the cameras in the studio didn't stop rolling. Leaked footage would later show Victoria screaming at her publicist, blaming them for not vetting the passenger list properly. But there was no publicist left to scream at. Her team walked out of the green room, leaving her alone. When Victoria exited the studio, the London Metropolitan Police were waiting. This time, They weren't there to arrest a teenager on her orders. They were there for her. Victoria Sterling, an officer stated, stepping in front of the town car she had hired but could no longer pay for. We have a warrant for your arrest regarding the assault on a Port Authority officer in New York, and we have new inquiries regarding fraud. You can't do this, Victoria hissed, looking around for a camera to play the victim for. But the paparazzi had turned feral. They weren't photographing a victim. They were photographing a pariah. I am a British citizen, and you are going to the station, the officer said, guiding her into the back of a very different kind of car. Back in New York, the fallout at the airline was nuclear. Arthur Reynolds didn't just accept the CEO's apology. That afternoon, while Maya slept in a hotel suite in London, Arthur initiated a hostile takeover of the airline's board. Reynolds Global Logistics already owned the debt on their engines. Arthur simply called in the loans. He walked into the airline's headquarters 3 days later, not as a customer, but as the new chairman of the board. His first order of business was Sabrina Jenkins. Sabrina was sitting in a small HR office, staring at a termination letter. She looked 10 years older than she had on the plane. Her union rep was arguing for a suspension, claiming stress. The door opened. Arthur Reynolds walked in. The room went silent. Mr. Reynolds. The union rep stood up nervously. We are just handling the paperwork. I know, Arthur said. He looked at Sabrina. She couldn't meet his eyes. I'm sorry, Sabrina whispered, her voice cracking. I was afraid of her. She was a platinum member. You were afraid of her status, Arthur corrected her cold. So you tried to crush someone you thought had none. That isn't fear, Ms. Jenkins. That is cowardice, and it is prejudice. Arthur placed a folder on the table. You are terminated for cause, Arthur said, meaning no severance, no benefits, and I have ensured that this incident is permanently noted in your file with the Federal Aviation Administration. You will never work on a plane again, not even handling baggage. Sabrina put her head in her hands and wept. It was the tears of someone who realized that one moment of cruelty had cost her a 20-year career. But the hardest hit of karma was reserved for Victoria. 6 months later, the court cases were settled. The Sterling Hess firm was gone. The banks had foreclosed on her assets to cover the failed merger penalties. Her penthouse in Manhattan was sold at auction. Her reputation was so toxic that no board in the world would touch her. Maya Reynolds was back in school, preparing for her finals. She hadn't done any interviews. She hadn't tried to become an influencer. She just wanted to be normal. One afternoon, she received a letter in the mail. It was from the New York District Court. It was a victim impact update. It detailed Victoria Sterling's sentence. Because it was a first offense, she avoided significant jail time, but the judge, a stern woman who had seen the viral video, had decided on a creative punishment. Victoria was sentenced to 2,000 hours of community service. Maya turned the page to see where the service was assigned. She started to laugh, a genuine, hearty laugh that she hadn't felt in a long time. Assignment: JFK International Airport, custodial services. The woman who had sneered at a teenager and accused her of having a janitor friend was now required to clean the very terminals she used to strut through. The following week, a traveler uploaded a video to TikTok. It showed a woman in a bright orange vest sweeping cigarette butts off the curb outside Terminal 4. She looked older, tired, and her hair was grey, the expensive highlights long gone. A passenger walked by, a young black teenager with headphones around his neck. He dropped a candy wrapper by accident. The woman in the vest sighed, bent down, and picked it up. "Thank you, Mom," the boy said politely. Victoria Sterling looked up. She looked at the boy, then down at her broom. "You're welcome," she muttered. She went back to sweeping. Maya watched the video on her phone in her dorm room. She didn't feel triumph. She didn't feel glee. She just felt a sense of balance. The universe had righted itself. Her phone buzzed. It was her dad. Dad. Saw the news about Victoria. "Justice is served?" Maya typed back. Maya. "Justice is served. But Dad? Next time, let's just take the train. Dad. Deal." Maya put her phone down, put on her headphones, and opened her textbook. She had an exam to study for, and for the first time in months, the noise of the world faded away, leaving only the quiet satisfaction of a girl who knew exactly who she was and exactly where she belonged. The seat was hers, and she had kept it. And that is how one arrogant assumption led to the destruction of an entire empire. Victoria Sterling thought her platinum status made her untouchable, but she learned the hard way that true power isn't about the seat you sit in. It's about how you treat the people standing next to you. She wanted to clear the trash from first class, but in the end, she was the one who got taken out. What would you have done if you were in Maya's shoes? Would you have moved to row 22 to avoid the drama? Or would you have stood your ground like she did? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of high-flying justice and instant karma, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.